Hey, I want to cover three applications with you today that I'm using for creating presentations. And I just wanted to share with you, there have been some great updates to some of these applications over time. I did a head to head for Gamma and Beautiful AI back a few months ago. And right now, I mean, Gamma just released a brand new update. And honestly, it's blowing me away with what it can do. And I wanted to share that. But in addition to that, I still see some gaps with some of these tools. And so I want to sort of share with you, not just necessarily how to use the software, because I think pretty much anybody can do that. But what I want to demonstrate in this video is how I actually use this in the real world. So this won't be just flipping through screens and showing you sort of the static images. And I've seen a couple of those. And honestly, I was really disappointed that all people were doing was replaying kind of the things that we saw in the Gamma 3.0 release. And honestly, it wasn't helpful for me. And so that's why I wanted to create this video for you, because I think that there's a lot of people that could use this to their distinct advantage in creating lead magnets and presentations and tools that people can use that focus on things that you want to talk about in your business. And so, with that, I wanted to just share with you my perception of the tools, and then we'll go through kind of the real world application. Look, if you like anything in this video where it helps you, I want you to consider joining my free school community. And we cover these sort of things and the real world applications of these tools, because honestly, I don't think the fluff and the hype around a lot of the things inside of the tools is all that helpful to people. And so I want to try and provide help where I can. And in this case, with these tools, I use them an awful lot. And I tell people all the time, like, look, I use AI in my agency with my clients, but I also use AI myself. So whenever I'm teaching or other things, I oftentimes will come back and have AI help me create the presentation. So, just to let you know, you're not going to get some fluffy presentation here, and we're going to actually dive right in. So let's talk a little bit about pricing. In terms of pricing, the way that these things break down is that most of them have some level of a free tier, right? So you can get in and try them and see how they work and things like that. So for Gamma, it has a free tier. It essentially is going to have their logo on it, but you can create up to 10 roughly slides. That's roughly what this bottom bullet is on, is the fact that they have the ability to have up to 10 slides. You can output it in PDF and PowerPoint. You could also have images, etc., as a part of that. And so just something to get you in and get you going. But pretty quickly, if you get serious about this, you're going to quickly take a look at their $8 plan, which then comes with even more credits and the ability to create up to 20 different cards overall. You also get their more advanced AI image models, which honestly, in my personal view, this new 3.0 version that they have is pretty impressive in terms of what it can do for creating slides. And something definitely to consider is that ability to create images is a distinct advantage. Then lastly, if I go to the last plan, which is the pro plan, this is the one that I personally am on for Gamma, is $18 a month. And in this one, you get not only their AI image models, but you also get custom branding and fonts. You also get the ability to take a look at their API, which, if you're doing anything with automation today and you're creating and injecting things into their capabilities, then again, that's the distinct advantage overall for this, is that you could do some things where you essentially can, let's say you're using ChatGPT to develop the things that you want in the slides, and then eventually then it comes back to being able to put it back into Gamma. And in this case, that's where the API would come into play. And yeah, it's something that you may want to consider. Also, you can create up to 60 slides or 60 cards per prompt as well with that model. And I will be doing an API video at some later date, but just to share with you what that one is. Beautiful AI and their pricing. So they don't have a permanent free tier. So their free ability is they give you full access for 14 days. So you get 2 weeks to actually get out there and try it. And then it goes to $12 a month. Nice thing is here, you get to create unlimited slides and just get in there and generate content. And I keep saying slides, but the reality is a lot of these tools will do websites or documents and things like that. So there's a lot of different varieties that you can use if you are using these tools. Just something to consider with regards to that. GenSpark is the third tool that we're going to talk about today. They're not really creating, let's just say, quote unquote, presentations. They can create sheets and lots of different things. They can even do videos and images and other things much more than just a presentation creator. But I oftentimes use them for creating presentations. So I thought, hey, look, I will cover that as a part of this because I think it's a distinct advantage for people that want to create content and have materials to go along with your content. So if you want to give away a free guide or something like that, this is another tool to help you do that at scale. You could kind of see all the models that essentially they have in here. So they have the chat GPT models, they have the Claude models, they have Google models, et cetera. And so with that, again, I think there's an advantage, but it also does images. So you could see it does the chat GPT images, it has Flux and Gemini, et cetera, in here. And then it has the ability to create video as well. And depending on what your use case is, you could use it for much more than just slides. And so to me, again, this quickly becomes something that is a real tool that I could use for lots of different areas of business in my life. And so that's why essentially I wanted to have this tool. Now, if I go away from that, just to share with you, so we're going to go through a couple of different things. I do want to come back to these different tools and what I've seen in the past. And so just to talk to you a little bit about the slides that I've seen that are generated from beautiful AI for a moment. The one bit of feedback that I have with regards to these slides is that you'll see that they use the same sort of styling over and over again in their slides. So it depends on what it is that you might want. But this slide is an exact mimic of the slide that I started on. And so it has the three dots and then it has the icons inside the three dots. Under that, it just has text and then normally a tombstone quote at the bottom as well. And so you'll see these sort of things that repeat over and over again. And to me, these ones with the dots really stand out as being something that was generated by beautiful AI. So if that whole AI generation thing bothers you, then, again, this may be a limiting factor for you. To cover a little bit of what the Gamma model looked like before. As I mentioned, I did a head-to-head video back around Christmas time last year, and in that, I compared Gamma versus Beautiful AI, but with it, I sort of looked at it as Beautiful AI was generating better slides. At the end of the day, real concept of whatever the slides were going to be, they looked better under Beautiful AI than they did under Gamma, in my opinion. But whenever I look at these now, I compare this to what it can generate today, and there is a stark difference. And that's why I'm wanting to share this with you is that this is the demonstration of what it used to look like, let's say at the beginning of 2025. But in reality, now these slides actually look much, much better inside of Gamma AI. And I'll demonstrate that for you in just a moment. And so what we're going to do inside of each of these models is I want to just use the same prompt over and over again across each one of these with the idea that by using the same prompt, all of us will be able to compare the final result. Essentially, what I want to do with each one of these models with you is to be able to inject the same prompt across each one of them. And then in the end, I'm going to show you how I apply this as well. And so if this video is beneficial to you, the one thing I would ask you to do is to consider joining my free school community. I'll put the link to my free school community just below this video. All right, so hopping back in here. So this one is Gamma. I'm going to click create new. You can see I've got a couple of different ways to do it. Generate is the one that we're going to use here, but certainly you can import a presentation. You can import images and things like that. All right, so we're sitting here on the generate screen and I'm going to inject my prompt in here. You could see it's essentially pretty comprehensive. I went to ChatGPT and just said, hey, look, here's what I want is a prompt so that we can wind up with something that's pretty comprehensive. And so I just wanted to import that into here. We're going to do the same thing in Beautiful and the same thing in GenSpark, and then we're going to have it output our presentation for us. Here we go. I'm going to click edit prompt down here. Okay, so now it's all set to get to that point of generating the slides. And so what it says is right for business professionals, blah, 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 use clear tone, I want the visuals to cover this theme, I think. So we'll just have it on a lighter colored theme. And then you can set the image style. It could be illustration, abstract, 3D, etc., line art, and so on. And then you can also add extra keywords in here if you want extra keywords in there too. In my case, I'm just going to click the generate button and let it go. So that's that one. Let me come over to GenSpark now. So I'm going to do the same exact thing in GenSpark. In this case, it's pretty straightforward. This is almost like any other AI model. It's just drop in your prompt. You could see all the different things that it can create. At the very top, I'm telling it to create a presentation. And so it will output slides in this case. And so I'm going to click that. This one's going to take a little longer than some of the other ones. So I'm probably going to have to pause the video while GenSpark finishes, but I will come back to that just so you can see. And here is the third one. We're going to click on new presentation. We want to generate with AI. And so in beautiful, we're just going to drop it in here. And for those of you who like to dictate as well, you can see the microphone button there on the side. And so I'm going to click generate presentation. So all three models are now running. Let me come back just so you can see Gamma running. So right now it's laying out the slides themselves and the text that's going to be on the slides itself. And most of the models do this way, where it breaks things down first into the text sections, and then it'll come back to the actual images. You can see now it's actually dropping in the images. And of course, you can come in here and say, hey, look, I want different images, or I wanted to modify the image or whatever, as well as it goes through. So I'm going to let this one continue to generate. Let's come back to GenSpark and see what it's doing. And on GenSpark, I have this AI first presentation. And so normally I can click this button like as it's going. What it's doing right now is it's trying to create the file. As it creates the file and the slides, what we'll see happen over here is the slides actually start to get populated. If you ever see a blank screen inside of GenSpark, just come back to the model and you have to click this on some occasions to actually get it to start filling in on the right-hand side. In the meantime, it looks to me like beautiful AI is done. AI first workflows for business professionals, slow ideation process. Remember, I mentioned the fact that these ones with the dots and the icons come up pretty frequently. And in this case, it didn't use other slide types. There are ways to get it to regenerate the slides and have it create something else, or you even modify the way that the slide currently looks. I'm not going to do that. I want to just leave them as is, just so you get a full sense of these. When they're done, though, you have a couple of different options. I can present from here. So I can present from the current slide. I can walk this in. I can even have the presenter view just like inside of PowerPoint. So let me just share with you what that screen would look like, just so you get a sense of how it looks. I don't want anybody to walk away without fully understanding how this might look for you as well if you are presenting from here. I think inside of their interface, it looks really nice. The animations work, etc. If I export this, none of the animations will work any longer. I'll have to go back and add those back in if I want this inside of PowerPoint to be animated this way. But just to highlight overall, the difference here is that oftentimes you could wind up with a slide presentation that is, just needing that additional bit of touch to be able to work inside of PowerPoint as well. So I'm going to come out of the player here and just back to this side of things. And now that I'm back inside of the presentation, just to cover with you as well. So you can share the presentation out. That certainly you can have a public link where people could come to it publicly. You could share it to specific individuals if you wanted. The other option, though, is you come over here, you click the three dots, and you can either export the slide or you can export the entire presentation. So even though the button here says export slide, if you click on the button here, you'll essentially see that I can export the slides as pictures, as a PowerPoint. I could put it in Google Slides, or I can export the entire presentation. Typically, I click export the entire presentation. You see a lot of the options here again. Many times what I do is, because I want the styling and all of that to stay exactly the same, I just click on the PDF export. I normally present for many different audiences using that PDF export. You could certainly do the same with the PowerPoint version or the Google Slide version. The one thing you'll see, though, is that the slides actually will somewhat change unless you export, let's say, like the PowerPoint as images. And so in that case, the formatting may change slightly in this export. So in the meantime, let's come back to one of our other contenders here. Let's go back and look at Gamma and see what did Gamma create overall as a presentation. Let's do the same thing. So if I go to presentation mode, again, their slides are beautiful whenever you click in and actually go to it. You saw my prompt was pretty comprehensive in terms of what I wanted to present on. And so in this case, it was overall the fact that, look, we're moving from the day of PowerPoint presentations to AI presentations, pretty relevant for this particular topic. And then as we go through, you see the way that the slides look, the pictures, the graphics, et cetera, just seem to make a lot of sense in terms of how things play out. I wouldn't have to do a lot of editing on these slides, is how I feel about them. And so, I certainly could go back and change the images. A lot of these tools do have connections to royalty-free images as well. And so if you don't like the AI images, it's pretty easy to go in and swap them for images that are either on Unsplash or Pixabay, which are image resources for royalty-free images. And so you get a sense of what this is overall. Now, let's go back to GenSpark and see what it's created. It is still creating the slides. So I want to preface all of this with the fact that this takes a lot longer. The slides won't necessarily look as pretty either, but there's a main component here that I think that the content that comes across from this will be a lot better than the content that will be in these other presentations. And I'll share with you how I address that in just a moment. I'm going to pause the video for a little bit. I'm going to let this actually continue running and finish. So let's see, we started this run, I think, about 17 minutes ago. And in the generation of the slides, one of the things that I noticed with GenSpark in this case was it seemed to lose where it was. So it created like the early agenda, how to create an AI first presentation. And it's got the agenda here and it's got some points here, but there are a lot of blank slides in here. And so whenever I came through this, it looked to me like several of these were still waiting on generation. What I've had to do in the meantime was I came back down to the bottom and I just told it, hey, it doesn't look like you actually finished the presentation. So I need you to like generate those slides again for me. And so that's what it's currently finishing up, is that part of it. Let's see, where's my message? The slides are not complete. There it is. And then right now it is currently regenerating the slides, it looks like, and it's going to come up with some slightly new content as well. So you could see it's currently on that particular slide. And so I'm going to again pause the video, but I just wanted to be transparent that in the case of just dropping in your prompt and creating your slides right from the get-go, these other two tools, which admittedly are made for presentations, this one is not necessarily made for this, and it will generate a lot better content. You will see just the level of bullet points, the thinking that went into the presentation, et cetera, is going to be much more comprehensive than what the other tools created, in my view. And so I'll show you again towards the end of the video. I'm going to show you how I actually would use this in combination with some of the others to come up with something that's even better still. So as it gets ready to write out this slide, I wanted to show what was on the screen at first was just the prompt that GenSpark was using to create this particular slide. And it's something that if you watch it, it essentially goes through this thinking, then code, then preview sort of version on each one of the slides. It should come up now as it finalizes things. It should come up with the same exact prompt on this next slide as well as it starts to build things out. And so I just wanted to just share with everybody the interesting part of this is that the AI model takes your prompt and then breaks things down. For slide 7, I need you to create a content slide, blah, blah, blah. And then it has bullet points and whatever. And then it goes through and tells it. And then instantly it comes back and creates what I would say is the HTML that actually will create the slide itself. In the end, we're going to wind up with something again that we could download to a PDF or PowerPoint or what have you. And so the end result still winds up being that you will have roughly 15 slides in this case that could be imported into PowerPoint as well. All right, a little bit more time has passed by now, maybe 15 more minutes roughly. And it's completed all the slides this time. So it looks to me like it's building out slide number 15 as I'm starting to record again. And so it should be finished by the time I scroll down there. But essentially, just to talk you through this, they built it exactly as I asked. So I think it was the requirement was 10 to 15 slides in the document, and then it hits a lot of really good things. The problem why PowerPoint first is outdated versus using AI, and then why AI first is the future, et cetera. So, I mean, this is a pretty good sort of presentation. And whenever I look at the data that's in it, the bullet points that are in it, the statistics that support it, all of this information is really helpful. And I would say in some cases, better than what I have over here, even with the revised version of Gamma. And just to talk through that for a moment, that I feel like the information that's provided in here is okay. I mean, it's certainly, there are things in here that again, feel like would help, but I also see a lot of spaces where I'd have to go back and bolster the points or revise the presentation to try and get it to say what I need it to say. So as you think about the way that this comes across, it needs some modification is the way that I think about it. The same thing whenever I come back to the one here for Gamma as well. And so as I think about the presentation, this one still would need some support as well, even though I feel like this is a step above in terms of content, what was in beautiful AI at this point in time. In terms of the overall presentation creation process here, the one thing I wanted to touch on just a little bit. So you've seen the different versions, right? We've got the version here from Gamma. We've got the version here from GenSpark, the different slides of 15 that they created. Then we've got the ones from Beautiful as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about how do I take the ones that are here from GenSpark and actually use what's in here from a content perspective, but build out something that looks a lot better. And so that's what I wanted to cover in this last section of the video. And I just wanted to, again, say, look, you have an opportunity to do all of the same things that you did before, right? I could share this with a link out to people. I can export it as well. I could download the PDF or PowerPoint or whatever. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to download all the pages as a PDF. So I'm going to save that on my computer. And in the meantime, I'm going to come back over to Gamma and I'm going to start a brand new project inside of Gamma. So let me flip over here. I'm going to start a brand new project. And in this case, we're going to import a file. So what's happening on the other side, we're actually creating that downloadable file. It looks like it just arrived. So I can go grab it from my downloads and then drag it over. Okay, so the file's uploading now. What I didn't show you was just me going into the directory and grabbing the file, but it's essentially being uploaded here. And what I want to do is, again, create a presentation from that. So I've uploaded what was in GenSpark into Gamma, and I'm going to click continue. Now you could see it's imported the document. I have a couple of changes that I can make to it. So I could keep it detailed. I could make it extensive, which probably isn't a bad idea. So I'll just make it extensive. I'll come down here in terms of the language. I could change that. I could change the styling. Why don't we change it over to this breeze styling, like that a little bit better. For the image model, again, I could pick up on whatever it is that I want. In this case, I think I'll do line art. I like simple illustrations. I haven't tried this before, to be totally transparent. And roughly at the bottom, it's got some additional things that I could drag in as well. In this case, I think we should probably increase the number of cards. So I don't know, maybe 20. It was 15 before. Now it's going to add a bunch of images and other things. I just don't want it to be so small that or contain so little actual content that it becomes a problem. So I'm just trying to think ahead of whatever I'm going to have it do over here. Just a quick heads up on that. And then the last part, I'm going to click the generate button here and it's going to do its thing as well in terms of starting to create the cards. But I just really want you to see how this actually performs, right? It's going to go through and start with the slides that I had, and then work from those slides back into a new set of slides, this time with the line art. And you could see some of the things that are actually coming in now. I'm not sure exactly on this one, exactly what it was trying to do. I might have to have the AI actually modify this slide because it almost looks to me like it took a snapshot of the last one. So we'll see how this looks on the full screen once it gets done. As I come down here and just take a look at the different ones, we'll see exactly how it performs at doing this. I'm doing this as a live demonstration, right? So you're getting realistically exactly what I'm seeing, just importing a document. And if I have to adjust, I'll tell you what I had to do to try and get it to the level that I wanted it. I saw a line drawing going in, and now all of a sudden that line drawing is missing. So I'm not exactly sure what the AI did there, but who knows? Maybe it'll come back and make a modification here in just a second as well. And so I'm going to pause again, just trying to mention to you where I am pausing because I don't want people to get the impression that these things are snap fast whenever the reality is they're having to go back and do some level of thinking. All right, so it just finished a moment ago, and I want to come back here and share my screen with you as well, just to see overall what did it create. So this picture in the upper left is going to have to be fixed. I can come in here and I can reprompt the AI to fix this particular slide. I'm not exactly sure what it was trying to do there, but it looks to me like it tried to use a part of the original document. It's also extracted these icons out as a part of the information. So again, I can come in here and I can adjust it. I can add text. I can adjust a lot of things. Also, to be totally transparent, right? Some of these things, like this one, where it looks to me like essentially what it's trying to do is to compress this light bulb down into one little tiny area. On the left-hand side, it looks to me like it's created almost like a document. If I come into presentation mode, let me just show what it would look like, right? In presentation mode, it looks fine. Honestly, it looks good to me. Again, I would change these icons, the little icons that are in there. I for sure would change the image that's here. And I would just come in and prompt Gamma to help me create a new image. Just, hey, look, let's create a new image for this particular slide. Or maybe I delete that icon at the very top or the headline at the top. So I just wanted you to actually see this. Now, on this one, I do want to call out, right? So if I try to export this item and you could see how it goes off the page, and I was purposely trying to get to one of these that does this, what will happen is I will have to do a lot of modification inside of PowerPoint or Google Slides or whatever to try and figure out how do I get this to fit. Now, one easy revision would be to not waste a ton of time on doing this and just delete one or two of these items. That would be my normal approach would be, look, can I adjust some of these or manipulate them in a way that it actually makes it a lot easier to consume? Because the stuff on the left with the additional text on this slide, I don't know that it necessarily helps the story, but what I can say is that the issue is that some of the text is just wrapping, and that wrapping is what's causing the additional space. So what you have to try and figure out is, can you shorten the text in the box? Can you do something that will help it? The same thing with this one, right? So I've got the similar sort of issue, the live demo results, data-driven telehealth adoption versus AI diagnostics. It's got like a chart that is more or less calling out real world business applications. This slide's fine. Like the line drawing on this one, that looks pretty cool. I think it makes it visually attractive whenever you look at the quantifying the ROI impact overall. And to me, this is a great way to build out slides to teach and things like that. Does it mean that you won't have to edit? Absolutely not. I still think the human has to be in the loop here to get out there and figure out, what are you trying to communicate? Is what's on the screen valuable to you? Does it really help you at the end of the day? And what I like is a combination of what I saw in GenSpark plus, the stuff that's being created right now through Gamma. And so I just thought I would share that. Hopefully this video has been valuable to you. I know it's been a long one, but I do appreciate you hanging around to the end. If you do like it, please give me a thumbs up. Give me any comments that you have about the overall process that I've gone through to try and show you all the tools. And then lastly,
please think about clicking that subscribe button, because oftentimes what I see is a lot of people checking out these videos and just passing us by. And the school community is going to have more and more of this kind of content for people, in addition to things that are going to, in general, help you in business. And so I would greatly appreciate it if you would join the school community as well. Thanks so much for watching.